Alex Albon has said that 5-second penalties are not teaching Formula 1 drivers anything. Alex Albon has said that the Formula 1 driver's standard 5-second time penalty for causing collision is not strict enough, and not really teaching the drivers anything. The Williams driver's comments came in the wake of an incident late in the Singapore Grand Prix, when he was knocked into a spin by Sergio Perez, costing him a points finish. In Japan last weekend, Albon had another close call with Perez, and was then a witness to the Mexican driver punting Kevin Magnussen off the road in what the Haas driver called a shitty move. The Red Bull driver received 5-second penalties for both of his incidents, having been deemed predominantly to blame for both collisions. However, in Singapore, the added time made no difference to his 8th place finish, and in Japan, Red Bull had initially retired his car, only to send it back out so Sergio Perez could go through the motions of serving the penalty and not have to take a grid drop at the next race in Qatar. Albon believes that lack of consequences is not a deterrent for risky moves. In turn 11, he did the same thing again to me. On track today, said Albon when asked about Perez's repeat offences in consecutive races. I avoided it, said Albon. And then he did it again to Kevin. I was behind him, so I had the best view of everyone. And so clearly it's not really teaching the drivers anything, because the penalties aren't strict enough. I mean, that's 2 races in a row that he's done that mistake. Magnussen stressed that the contact had destroyed his afternoon in Suzuka. I just got spun around there by Perez, and it ruined our race, said the Dane. We had to pit, and that was too early for the 2 pit stop strategy that we had, and the tyre degradation that we had. It was just too early, but we had to. Regarding the sanction awarded to Perez, he added, I think he's penalising himself. There's a natural penalty for him doing that. It doesn't look good for him, but it's what it is. We're racing, he was in a shitty position, and he made a shitty move. Haas team principal Gunther Steiner has also made his frustrations clear. I think obviously Checo can feel the pressure. You know which pressure he feels, and these things can happen. He already had a penalty before he hit us. I don't know exactly what he did under the yellow, but he did break the rules. And obviously, there's some more pressure, and then these things happen. It's 5 seconds, but there's no consequence, because he retired afterwards. I'm never happy about someone having to retire, but he just destroyed our race, so I'm not happy about that as well. Asked about Albon's plea for stiffer penalties for collisions, the Grand Prix Drivers Association director George Russell acknowledged that the issue should be looked at. When I look at Austin last year when I made that mistake with Carlos, and I got a 5-second time penalty for it, that was really drive-through worthy, he said. And it's difficult, because we always say that we shouldn't judge the consequence of the incident, but sometimes you need to judge the consequence of the incident, so I'll need to review. This is certainly a big talking point in the last few races, because there have been drivers making stupid decisions, making bad mistakes, and taking other drivers out of the race, and you have to think, taking someone else out of the race or destroying someone's race by punting them off the corner and spinning them round, sending them another 10, 20 seconds back on the grid, that does completely destroy their race. A 5-second penalty for Sergio Perez in the pits is not necessarily going to put him behind that driver that he took out once they've gone and taken their pits. You need to kind of take some different looks, and maybe we need to have some different rules for penalties for drivers, because it is ridiculous. A drive-through penalty, I think, should be brought back, because these drivers just go and do a 5-second penalty in the pit stops. They wait for 5 seconds, then they put on a new fresh pair of tyres. I think that a drive-through penalty is a lot harsher and definitely does penalise the drivers for making terrible errors and taking each other out of the race. And this would certainly make the drivers think twice about making those risky moves on each other, because they have to think, if I make this move and I take this driver out, I might get a drive-through penalty. That means I'm not allowed to pit. I have to go through the pits, though. That's going to cost me about 20 seconds. And yeah, I get sent 20 seconds back in the field. So I think that we need to get a few more stricter penalties on drivers for making terrible errors and taking each other out of the race.